And first of all, we'll have our territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land, and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation, with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Alderville is located on the Mississaugan Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. The township of Alderville respectively acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure health and integrity for generations to come. Next, I'll ask council, is there disclosure of pecuniary incidents or general nature thereof? Seeing none, that will be duly recorded. And can I have approval of the agenda as circulated?
We had an item come in at the very last minute, it's to do with insurance. So,
Okay.
CEO will report on that. We need to have that to the event. It needs approval from council today.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll just, okay, so I'll read that and there will be one addendum added to that that will be.
Mayor Noble,
Yes.
through you. When this meeting, the motion for it did include the discussion of potential new committees. And I know that'll just be an opening discussion today, but since that was part of the motion that formed this meeting, I think we should include it as an item on the agenda.
Okay. There's a problem with that?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to read the motion and then we'll have two amendments. One to ask Troy to speak and another one to include new committees on that. Be it resolved that the agenda for the special council session of Tuesday, December 20th, 2022 be approved as circulated with two addendums to be added. Mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. All in favor? That's carried. Troy, I'm going to let you introduce what you wanted to talk about.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. We just hot off the press. We just received some insurance numbers that I think would council be interested in, and staff need your direction and approval to go forward. But just a little bit of background: our policy was worth $499,000 in 2022. It has gone up to $577,000. Therefore, we went out and we did retain some quotes, and we just got a really good quote. And it's a savings of roughly, $150,000 for the township. And that quote before tax would be roughly around $349,000. So we would like to. This is time sensitive. We need to get it done before the end of the year. So with council's permission, we would like to go forward and secure this quote. And, it's a huge saving for the township. Everything's covered in it, same. So yeah, it's positive, good news information.
Thank you, Troy. I'll just have one question. Are we dealing with the same adjuster or the agent?
We're going through the same broker. However, it's a different company. The company is Marsh. We have used some of their insurance members of Marsh in previous insurance companies. So right now we're with Intact. So we would eliminate that and go with Marsh.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Neal.
Through you to CAO Gilmore. You partially answered the question that was in my head, but the reputation of this new company and other people who've used it, because there are quite differences when you try to make a claim between different insurance providers.
Yep, they're an established company, and they are highly recommended from our broker. So he has put it in writing to us that he recommends that we go forward with this. It's such a great savings. So
And I'll make a quick comment. The broker that we're dealing with is the same one we've dealt with for 10, 15 years, has a local and very good reputation, so
Yeah, same broker.
that's good. I have a motion to accept that report and instruct staff to go ahead and sign this one up. Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, next we're going to have a presentation. And we want to recognize art by Oliver. And we're going to have some festivities here for the next few moments, but basically the council of the Township of Allen Calderman would like to recognize Oliver Stanford, an exceptionally talented young artist who is helping to bring the Christmas spirit to the township through his incredible art. And to kick this off, we're going to ask our town crier, Mr. Liam Craig, to come forward and do his.
We are here to discover who the mysterious Oliver is. We know he is the creator of fine festive greeting cards, which have been anonymously distributed to people around the hamlet. Many have been chosen to be honored for their contribution to the social fabric of Grafton, this time for Christmas decorations. Oliver, before December, we did not realize how special your awards would be. Perhaps this will grow to a more formal designation for future years. Just like Michelin bestows stars to exceptional restaurants, your acknowledgement of people who make Grafton greater might be considered a crowning achievement. Mayor Lowell, council and staff, when someone inspires us, they should be recognized for doing so. Perhaps Oliver can be considered for an award during the Canada Day presentations. We have here a young man who has chosen to be a part of making the hamlet of Grafton a better place. That should be celebrated with great gusto. Oliver, thank you for your passion for art and your enthusiasm. And as with all formal announcements, we end with a tribute to our monarch. God save the king.
God save the king. Thank you, Liam. I wish I could do that. I'm not even try.
Well, if you wanted to have them come up here, they will be on camera.
Does artwork
Oh,
let you up?
you might want to place it.
That's just for the people in the on Zoom, just to be able to see it a little bit better. His artwork is very nice, very well, very talented young man. And I have a few little words to say. On behalf of council, we would like to recognize Oliver Stanford, an exceptionally talented young artist who is helping to bring the Christmas spirit to the town through his incredible art. This year, Oliver was commissioned by an anonymous Grafton resident to design 5 Christmas cards for a special project. The client digitalized and copied those cards from Oliver's originals and had him sign and number them. This secret Santa distributed the cards at night to the homes as a way of saying thank you for taking the time to decorate for the holiday season. The card says the following. You've been driven by Christmas carding. Thank you for taking the time to decorate your home so beautifully and for spreading a little seasonal joy and light. Although you do not know me and I don't know you, your efforts brought a smile to my face and made my Christmas brighter. Wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas and a happy, healthy New Year. And a little bit of history on this. Last year, Oliver started designing and selling cards so he would have his own money to buy Christmas gifts for his family. His mom said he even exceeded his goal. But last year, each card was tenaciously drawn one by one. Next year, for the holidays, his mom plans to find a way to digitally reproduce his designs so he can be a part of our Grafton Christmas market. Hey, that's really good. This year, he became quite a celebrity, with everyone hoping they received one of his cards. Today, Oliver has brought with him one of the original cards that started all this excitement. You can now find Art by Oliver on Facebook, link so that you can be kept up to date on his current projects. And on behalf of council, I want to thank Oliver for making our community extra special. So, a few things for you. You want to stand, come on up? There's a bunch of stuff here, Oliver. First of all, we have a Christmas card for you. It's all signed by council and everything else. We have a township pin, which you can put on your collar there whenever you get a chance. We have a hat with Alan McCollum and our crest on it, and you can wear that to school or wherever you want, proudly. And finally, well, not finally, but we also have a certificate for you, and it is in recognition of outstanding community spirit. Congratulations, Oliver Stanford, December 20th, 2022, and it's signed by myself and Troy Gilmer, our CAO. So I would like to have some pictures. You want one right here? You want to hold this with me? And Joan has picked out something a little bit special for you. She thought you might love it.
This is something that will help you continue with your card. Thank you again, Oliver. And I just had one more thing to share. I feel really special because this is how I got one of your cards on Saturday night. This was hanging out of my mailbox, and I thought my mailbox was falling apart. And so I've been able to find part well. So I opened it. And this was what was inside. Well, you made my Christmas extra special, and everybody in it on the whole as well, because of all the excitement that's going around about these cards and about you. So thanks again. Thank you for coming today.
Really sweet. Thank you.
Nine pictures are being taken. If you would just wait a moment while the meeting will proceed.
Family is now gonna.
Grandma and grandma and.
The town crier, right?
Oh.
Briar's gotta get in here.
And
Couple on one side, on the other.
Of the tree? Where are you looking? Anywhere you're looking. Okay, and now we'll go around. Yes. Okay. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, see you another one.
Yeah, I didn't know. Public buildings in the video. Oh. Oh.
Not.
Okay, well, I'm. Well. Well done.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Merry Christmas. Thanks, Liam. Okay, so the recording is still resuming whenever you wanted to resume the meeting.
Well, we're moving on to next on the schedule is the administration. And 6.1, it's a council report from Pat Kemp, clerk, dated December 20th, 2022, regarding a revised meeting schedule for January and February 2023. And Pat, you go to this through.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've had some challenges getting things pulled together for the budget meetings that we originally had scheduled for the 4th and 5th of January. So we postponed them. Also, the Roma conference was during one of our budget meetings that was scheduled, and 3 out of the 5 members of council will be attending that. So we're back to the council to approve the revised schedule.
Anybody have any questions for Pat? Okay, I'll read the motion, then if you want, we can debate it. Be resolved that the council, the township of Cullinan, received the clerk's report dated December 20th, 2022, advising of the upcoming meetings. And further, that council concur with the meeting schedule. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councilor O'Neill. Seconded by Mayor Stoller. Should wait for that. That come first. Any further discussion on this? Yes, Mary Catherine.
The Safe Drinking Water Act virtual meeting, is that an open or closed? Like, could the public join into that meeting, or is it just training?
There is a cost for it. So if somebody wanted to take the course, they'd have to pay and register with the in-water.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? All in favor? Well, Jim, question, Mike, go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, I did talk to Pat again, I just wanted to, we talked about that, maybe, how we could, maybe in time of lieu, and I guess we guys already talked about that, but I just, instead of, monetary, so they had time off or vacation or Friday afternoon or something off, if we're working that different now.
Do you, Mayor? Yes, I've spoken to staff on it and we'll work out something. So it should probably, if the meeting is, 6 to 9, 3 hours, they'll be off on Friday afternoon. We'll do it in turn.
Thank you, Troy. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Next, we have a committee's review report, 7-1. It's a council report from Pat Kemp, clerk, dated December 20th, 2022, regarding the joint West Northumberland Physician Recruitment and Retention Service Board. You're before
Thank you. So I was asked if I would pull some information regarding the Northumberland Physician Recruitment and Retention Board. And so it looks like the board was established back in 2001 with an ad hoc committee, and then in 2019, they formalized the committee. So it is, and with the town of Cobourg, municipality of Port Hope, township of Hamilton, township of Crammy, and our municipalities. And if council term is for 4 years, and if council wants to opt out, they can, but they have to give 12 months notice, and they are still responsible for the financial contribution, which is $100 for that time period. So now it's up to council whether or not you want to continue or not. If you choose not to continue, then we should give notice by the end of this year. And I'll get that.
I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that council of the township, do you have any questions? We can vote with that. Go ahead, Mike.
For you, Your Worship, I just had a couple of questions, just on some history of the thing, and how sort of doctors we are. And if there's anything at all, it'd be nice if we had a doctor here at 8 a.m., but I don't know how far away we are at that, but it would be nice to see what our money is going for, if it's, because I know sometimes we do these in all in good intentions, but we don't really get much of it. I would just like to see some more info.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with how many doctors they've recruited to this area. I would imagine it probably goes into the larger centers than a smaller township like ours, but I can bring back information to council. But
I guess I'll make a comment. I can't say that they've had some every year, but I know that they have had 2 or 3 some years. So it has been quite successful, and you are competing with other centers across the province. Everybody is looking for doctors, and coming to the old sound, and they're paying a lot for physician recruitments, and people up north pay a lot too, but that's for credit. Well, I don't know if that's answering your question, Mike, but.
Well, I would wonder also if, like if the hospital is doing anything, if the doctors have their own association doing stuff like that for recruitment.
I think I can answer some of that. I believe part of the board is made up of doctors. Although I can't say that 100% sure, but there's board members with doctors, actually the chief physician, chief of staff in the hospital was on that board at one time. I can't say that's something that's in the rules and regulations. I can't say that. One time it was. Any other questions on that? Go ahead, Councilor Luke.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. I guess I guess the issue that I have with this is that the township's paying into something that I believe myself is a provincial issue. And I can't answer Councillor Ainsley's questions. I do know we've been paying into this fund for a long time, and in Grafton, there are no doctors, right? I think this.
Can I stop you for a second? I should read the motion before, because it doesn't sound like you're gonna ask. questions. Unless Mary Catherine, did you have a specific question?
No, I would prefer to speak to a motion as well.
Okay, I'll read the motion, then we'll.
Yeah.
Council, will open it up first. Be resolved that the council of the township of Alderman received the report of the clerk dated December 20th regarding the joint West Northumberland Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee. And further, that council provides direction. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Beatty.
Yeah.
Moved by Councilor Booth and seconded by Councilor Ainsley. Go ahead, Rick.
So just getting back to, I guess, I believe it's a provincial thing, right? I think it's good that they, that they do this, that they're out there. I believe it's the hospital's responsibility to go out there and do stuff like this, right? So I moved here from Ajax. I still have to keep my doctor in Ajax because you can't get a doctor out here. So I don't know. I'm just not for the township paying money into this fund for when I think it's a provincial thing. So that's where I lie on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Neill.
Through you, Mayor Lobo. When I was out campaigning, I had this issue come up quite often that people didn't have access to medical care. And also people being pleased with the situation with the pharmacy now. And I know that's a telehealth situation. But anyway, I look at what's in front of us, their current bylaw, and in number 8, it says, subject to any changes in its mandate that the member municipalities deem advisable. And I'm wondering if that isn't something we should be discussing and looking at, whether it could include recruitment for nurse practitioners, and whether, we are going to be talking about our community centers and how they can be community hubs later in this meeting. Would it make sense to have visiting doctors there once a week, or a nurse practitioner there on Tuesdays? Those kinds of creative solutions that might better serve a rural community.
Good question. Go ahead, Mayor.
To you, Mayor Lobo, I concur with Councillor O'Neill. I think the model here is not serving our municipality. And I do think nurse practitioners are valuable resource for us here. So I think the time I would support not renewing our agreement with this for those reasons. I think they need to broaden their approach, and they need to look at other ways of the hub getting nurse practitioners in place in the rural municipalities.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Woodward.
Yeah, through your worship. The other thing too is what I would seem to see us spend our money on, if it's at all possible, is if we could pick up a young graduate that's going to university and help them get through university with a contract that he would come back here and open an office. That we know if we can do something like that, that we're actually going to get somebody in our township.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? I have a couple. I'm just going to ask some questions. And you can answer me whatever you want, but you don't have to even answer, just talk to think about it. How many people live in Alderman Township? How many get sick? How many have or require a doctor? If physician recruitment hires a doctor, or we going ourselves, who's going to pay for that? We're paying $7,000 a year now to hire people to go do that physician recruitment. My feeling would probably cost us $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. No guarantee that you'll get a doctor. And if the physician recruitment does bring in people, will they offer this doctors to the township down with Alden residents if we don't sponsor this? Yeah, I'm sure that they'll work with the hospital and you know, if a person needs an emergency service or something like that, they'll probably look after that. But as far as getting a doctor, a local doctor, I don't think the board will push for people who have called them and get that service if we don't support that. Well, that's just some of the things that I'm putting through the questions. Councilor O'Neill.
If I could, adding to the motion that it stands, my recommendation would be that we do continue for the next year and make our decision of whether we continue, dependent upon whether they broaden their mandate to include looking at bringing nurse practitioners or a different model as Deputy Mayor Stover has outlined. So maybe that's the wording, that we look at a broader model. And then that way we're attending the meetings. We do have a chance to give and request that from the committee. And if they do broaden it, then we continue and then otherwise we revisit this a year from now.
I believe, Mary Catherine, you were going to sit on this board.
Yes.
My opinion, not to argue, or just.
I
just
think you
discuss.
would need a seconder on that if we're going to discuss it. Is that correct?
Including that
Clerk
part of the original motion, or are you?
I think in addition,
amended to?
can
Yes.
in addition to the
Yeah.
an original, what we just said, and direction. So I guess that's and direction, but
So if Councillor O'Neill is making an amendment to the motion,
Yes,
then we just need a seconder for that amendment. Then we'll vote on the amendment first, and then we'll vote on the original motion as amended.
okay. So Councilor O'Neill is making that motion
So her motion is
to amend.
Yes, and then we need to continue for 2023, depending on the mandate and the usage of nurse practitioner or a different model to service Alderman Haldeman and revisit in a year.
And I'll make the comment, yeah, can we get a seconder for that motion? Councilor Ainsworth? And I guess I would just like to make another comment. I think I was on that for a couple of years, many years ago. And no, I was never on. I'm sure I was never on. I attended a few functions that they were hosting. But now that they have a 2019, they actually have some policies and procedures that they didn't have a little thing for them to have done that, and for Councilor O'Neill to give her thoughts and opinions on that as well. So we have a mover and a seconder to amend. Can I get a vote on that then, please? All in favor of the amendment? That motion is carried. Now we go back to the original motion. Then who made that here?
That was moved by Councillor Booth and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth.
Okay, Councilor Booth, are you ready to amend as your?
To accept that amendment or?
And so the amendment's been accepted, so it's the main motion as amended.
Okay, yes.
So what are you asking me then?
So you have to change it or no? Does that? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll have a vote on that motion, the original motion. Amendment. Right?
Right, so it's to receive the report as amended,
Yep.
which is the motion that you just passed.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you. Yes.
You do call vote.
All in favor of that? That motion's carried. Thank you, Billy. You're on that.
No problem.
So, as it stands, they'll get notification that we are.
the motion is read is that you'll have a year to decide if you're going to opt out.
Yes.
And then you'll be able to talk to the committee and bring forward the idea of a nurse practitioner or maybe a different model that would service Alderman Haldeman. And then council next year will revisit your position.
But then we will have to pay another 12 months
Yes, correct.
ahead of time.
So you get 24 months on 14 minutes.
Thank you, Joel. Next we have council report from Pat Kent dated December 20th, 2022 regarding the Rapid Rural Water Commission.
Mayor, members of council. If you recall, at one of our training sessions, a question came up about why the township has a water committee, and we are not required under the legislation to have a water committee. And I've listened to the sections under the Safe Drinking Water Act that states that every owner of a municipal drinking water system or regulated non-municipal drinking water system, if operating authority is responsible for the operation of the system. So no matter what, council is responsible for the drinking water system. And I'm suggesting that council not have a drinking water committee, but rather that all reports be presented to council on a bi-monthly basis that would be informed. The way it works now, it goes to a water committee, they make a recommendation, that recommendation forward to council, but not all members of council have heard the presentation from our operator in charge, Lucy. I think it'd be more beneficial for council to protect you if you were sitting at the table and those reports were coming forward.
Any questions for? Go ahead, Mike.
No, I agree with the, with that, and with resolving the committee. I just hope that we can do it on a, like, so these people put some time into the committee, you know, the letter, maybe get them all together and explain everything to them, why it is, what, the way it's going. And, we'd be a part of that.
Councilor Booth.
Through you, your worship, I guess my only concern is being on the water committee is, and ultimately council's responsible for all the decisions anyways, when we have a 2-3 hour meeting with the water board, I think the original intent was it sort of saved the council from sitting through a lot of that stuff. So I'm a little concerned that, are we gonna have a special meeting? I don't want the water board stuff coming to a council meeting, and our council meetings now going from 12 till 7 o'clock or something.
Go ahead,
I did have a meeting. Something like that. They do think the entire process will be much quicker, so they're in support of this. They will be able to provide us maybe a summary we want of all the testing and stuff, because in the water meetings, it really is confusing. They're willing and able to provide us like a really deep, summary, so it's really understandable. And whether that's monthly or every other month, whatever, like they're really supporting this idea and be able to provide us, all the information that council will need.
Any other questions with that?
So I was just going to suggest that, further to Councillor Bruce's suggestion is that, yes, the council would have a special meeting where we would have Lucy here and GeoCam, and they would do their presentation, and then that way, as he said, like some of our meetings do drag on. And that way it's just focused on the water.
I think it's a good idea because it's easy for them, and I understand what you're saying, Troy. They give us a summary and everything, but ultimately all of us here are responsible for what decisions we make, and I just don't want it that we're reading something at home that Lucy gave us. If we're going to get rid of the water board, that's fine, but that means it's on us. The onus is on us then to listen to Lucy here when they give us the recommendations, right? So I believe it should be a separate meeting, and if it's once every 2 months or once a month or whatever, that we meet, and it's just the water board stuff, because it does get weighed down where you're spending hours with them, and especially now with the construction of the new well, I know there's gonna be reports coming back and everything, and I think we need to be looking at that all the time.
Mary Catherine?
Through you, Mayor Lobo. I, in principle agree with this, but I would prefer that, we revisit this after we've had our training. Because to Councillor Booth's, I don't feel that I have the skill set or knowledge to read some of these water reports. And perhaps it is still advisable to us to have some, community expertise on those, if they are special meetings, some access to community expertise. So we've just got some eyes and on it that understand it better than myself.
I think you made a very good point. And council should be attending that training before we make the decision. Because I think I've sat through it a couple of times, and I think you'll find it very clear that council, like we learning and learning more and more, is not to be involved in the day-to-day operations, but we hold people that are responsible for that accountable. And we don't have to know all the little intricacies of how the water system works. We just have to make sure that the people that we've got doing the job are doing the job properly. So, go ahead.
Yes, and as part of that, because they're the operator in charge, they're licensed and they are trained individuals. We just have to make sure that they are still certified, which we do. They provide us with the certificates. And as I said before, council is ultimately responsible for that system.
And the other thing that we're responsible for is the budgeting of equipment that they recommend. And if they recommend that we spend money on this, that, and the other thing, we're probably, we're not the experts, I guess is what I'm saying. So if that's what they're recommending, we should consider that. But go ahead.
And through you, Mayor Lovell, I'm wondering, is there room for a subcommittee of community members that use this well, use the water system? I just put it out there because you did have community members sitting on the committee. Is there room in a subcommittee for this? I just put it out there because we were obviously not doing the logistics of running the system, but they did have to your Mayor, Councilor Booth, do you feel that there would be room for a subcommittee of community members that use the water just for their voice?
Through you, your worship, I think it's sort of redundant. If we're going to get rid of the water committee and then we're going to form another committee, we might as well just keep the water committee. I agree with what the mayor was saying. I mean, and to your concern, Mary Catherine, is Lucy explains everything as if, you know, I don't have any more knowledge than anybody else about how to run a water system or that. So they put it in layman's terms and explain everything to us. So as long as, I have no problem with the water committee disappearing, as long as that same explanation is communicated to council in a meeting, and you know, and we know what we're voting on, or like you said, Mayor, when it comes to budget, there's very few times the water committee or even council would say that they're not going to allow them to budget stuff because it's a serious thing. So I would say no to a subcommittee. If you're going to do that, you might as well keep the committee. And if we're going to get rid of the committee, then as long as council, like you said, Pat, is still having a meeting with Lucy and things are explained to us so that we know, because there was a lot of issues that came up even about the community with, there was some cruisers that complained. We had breakdowns in some of the systems with the cemetery and things like that, where the committee was the one that spent hours and hours discussing it. And then it came back to council, which made the decision quickly go. So.
And just to comment, that could be, I agree, it took a long time, but probably because the water committee really doesn't have any staff to to the community itself to handle some of that stuff, whereas if the staff report to the council, and the council wants to do something like that, then it can probably happen quicker.
I think the disappointing thing will be too, like you're saying, Councillor Ainsworth and the deputy mayor, is there are some community members on that committee that probably won't be too happy to hear that the water committee's disappeared. And I know, like John Horvath was one of them, I believe, a very valued member of the committee. He has a lot of experience with project management and things like that. And his, words of wisdom were well received when it came on some items that, coming from the community. So, but I guess it's up to council on how they want to proceed with it.
I think I'll read the vote, or pardon me, the proposal, and then we'll decide from there. So, be it resolved that the council of the township of Alderman received a report of the clerk dated December 20th, 2022 regarding the water committee, and further that council disband the current water committee, which consists of elected and non-elected members, and further that all members of the council who are legislatively responsible for the Grafton drinking water system meet on a bi-monthly basis to receive reports from the operator in charge so that they can be kept informed on the drinking water system. I have a mover and a seconder for that motion, moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by no second.
Motion's
And
That's over to you.
you have to remove yourself from the chair and get the deputy mayor to step in as the chair.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do this at this point. Could we defer this motion until we've had the training?
Sure. But that's not the motion. So let that motion-
The motion doesn't exist yet.
We don't have a second. You don't have a second, then, Councilor O'Neill,
What is the training?
February 14th.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Ainsworth.
Through your worship, I just want to add to just maybe to help us make a decision is that I don't know, like, this committee seems to me that it's much more serious than some of our other committees that we have, maybe the most serious if something goes south. Should we even be putting residents in this position? But should we even be putting them in that position? Something goes wrong with the water, lawsuits start happening, but I forget what the number was when people were getting charged. That this could wreck somebody's life, so should we even be putting?
Good point. Councillor Booth.
Since that motion doesn't sound like it's going ahead, I'd like to make a motion that Mary Catherine was, I guess, insinuating, would it be possible that we could defer this until after our training in February? And then we can make an informed decision. I don't think, I guess I better make that motion first, and then I can talk about it. To defer it until after our training.
Okay. Can I have a second for Councillor Booth's motion? Councillor O'Neill. Any questions, comments?
Just to comment on it, just to say that I think it's better if we defer it until after that, we can all get some training on what exactly we're responsible for. And then I'm not sure, Pat, do we have a water meeting in January? Or is it in February? Go ahead.
We haven't had a meeting since October. We've had one in November, so typically the other 2 months, so normally would be January, but we can push it back into February. If there's something urgent, then we would bring back a report to council directly. To keep you.
My preference would be, we still have a meeting in January, and as Councillor Ainsworth said, I mean, that's when we should be preparing the people on the council that, listen, we're going for training, we want to make an educated decision on this after our training. I just don't want the people on the board to find out that, what do you mean we don't exist anymore? Because I believe there's two members of the public on that committee.
Yes.
So I just don't want them hearing it down the grapevine that, you know, that's it, the committee's done and there was no discussion with them, at least in January. We can mention that, myself and Joan, I believe we're on the committee to say, this is what we're looking at. We will get back to you, and then I think it softens the blow a little bit, then.
Go ahead.
So, in order to do that, at some point in time, council will need to appoint, because that committee is done, your term of council, or when the term of council ended, your term on the committee ended. So, just prior to, if you're going to have a meeting in January, you would need to appoint the representatives. We can do that at your meeting on January 4th.
And I could be wrong, but I think there's another couple other people other than the current members who were.
So that would just be, we would form the committee and then we might only meet once in January and then in February could be, but I think if we tell them then, it's a lot better than them hearing from somebody else or whatever.
Good point. Councilor Neil?
I'm going to switch a little bit to CAO Gilmore. Is there a staff member? I think it was you, Mayor Logal, saying we could rely on staff reports, or are we considering Lucy in this role as sort of the staff member?
Through you, Mayor, I would have reports from Lucy. That would be attached to my report to council, so they would come from Lucy. And
Through you.
through.
And just a comment, I think that's pretty well similar to any contractor that you have. Right through, they don't report to council, they report to the staff member. Okay, any other further comments? I believe it was moved by Councilor Booth and seconded by Councilor O'Neill that we defer this until after January 14th.
And if I could ask you to add that you'll appoint a water committee at your January 4th meeting. And then that way you'll be covered, because you can't have a meeting with the water committee if you have another appointments.
Councilor O'Neill?
Can it be a special council meeting for water and that people be invited to attend that special council meeting rather than appointing a committee?
Yeah, you can do that. I was just going on what Councilor Booth had said, but yes, you can have a special council meeting where all members of council be in attendance, and people who were on the water committee were immediately members.
Okay.
Wouldn't it just be easier though to do the way we've been doing it? I mean, if council really wants to attend that meeting, it's just a water meeting, and then we would mention to the members there that we're going for training, we're looking at it, it's a serious thing. And
I think I prefer that, because then you're chairing and it's not a council meeting. And
it's an official water meeting,
It's a
and
water meeting of members of council want to be there.
anybody.
Won't be able to vote, but you'll be able to sit there.
Just, I'm not sure if you're.
Well, I hear you, I just wondered if Councilor Booth, should we even call it a committee meeting for this purpose? Could it be called an information meeting? Just to, because of where we're staying, where we're staying with the water committee.
Go ahead.
Well, my concern with that would be is we haven't had a meeting since November. So if we don't have a water meeting or something like that, and Lucy reporting to somebody, we're gonna have gone December, January, February, we're gonna be like 3 months. I don't see the harm. We've been doing it for years and years. So one more meeting in January to have one water meeting and to tell them what we're looking at is just informing the people, right? And we can easily dissolve the committee if we decide after our training that we're going to go that way. Then I don't think there's any liability either way that's going to change or anything for a 1 month meeting, right?
I think we've done all probably due diligence to our board members by informing them. And then saying, you know, we're going to take some training to make sure we perfectly understand what our responsibilities are as board members. or pardon me, council members, not board members, but council members. And then we will. So I would suggest that we have your meeting in January. And tell them that's what's going to happen.
And the next one would be in March, so our decision would have been made by then. I'm just weary, Councillor Ainsworth, because we all talked about trying to improve things with volunteers and that. And this to me would be sort of a slap in the face to them to say, guess what, the committee's done, thanks for applying, but, or even if we said in January, we're gonna have a special council meeting, it's not even a water meeting. Some of them might figure, well, I'm not going to that because I'm part of the water committee, I'm not going to a special meeting, so. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Anybody else got any comments? I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor that we go ahead with a meeting in January of the water committee, and we plan our training on February 14th, and then we'll make a decision after that as to whether the board continues. All in favor? The motion is carried. 7.3 is the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Advisory. There's an awful lot of different things come through to consider, think about, and look at. And I think we're going to have to go through that again.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Mayor, I have announced and seen issue with over Brian because they're closer to that committee than I am.
Are we both there? Okay. Brian with you, Jen, or not?
Yeah, he's there.
Hi.
There is.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
You want to take us through, Jen?
Sure. So through you, Mayor Logo, you can see there are some of the attachments that were in the agenda there that kind of just gave the history as to what led to creating the Parks, Rec and Culture Advisory Committee. And then some kind of a timeline. You see a timeline there in the last document and some notes about what has occurred since that document was brought to council in February of 2021. So if council has any questions or would like me to discuss something further, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, Council, have any thoughts? Councilor O'Neill.
Through you, Mayor Logo. I'm not sure how we're structuring this, but anyway, I look at, and I'm jumping ahead to two things. The formatting of the Economic Development Committee for the Corporation of the Township of Houselock, Belmont, and Methuen. I'm really impressed with how that is formatted and how they start with a goal and they have principles and they have a mandate. And I really like the structure of that. And then the other thing, and it's probably on a different page because this is a revised agenda from the one I was looking at. But if we look down, and it was page 63, it's part of the review and it's priority 1. And it's in quotes, so I'm thinking, and perhaps C.A.O. Gilmore can tell me where it came from. That either came from the Sierra report or from the strategic plan for the municipality, but it reads, Alnwick Haldeman is committed to providing a comprehensive range of high quality parks and recreation services through resource and asset management, fiscal accountability, and effective partnerships. So that's sort of, I'm thinking when we're looking at the goal, that's something that is currently in existence. So whether or not we want that to carry forward as the goal, or if we would like to modify it, or if perhaps program coordinator Steen, you have a different idea of what the goal should be. But I think my experience in this is there's a lot of things happening, but we don't seem to be clear on our goal. And as a council, it's our job to provide public services. That's why we elected council. That's why we have municipal services at all. And we're not clear, I don't think, on what that means in the context of recreation culture and community development or community building. So I think it's important that we understand what our goals are for this entire department, not just this committee, but the entire department. Why are we providing these things? And I did actually like some of the fiscal accountability and asset management that was referenced in that goal that I picked from the past.
Just so I'm clear, are you saying we're too specific or too general about our goals?
That we're not focused in what it is that we're trying to do. So, for example, when the public services roads, we get it. We need to have a road that goes to each person's house. Now, that's different quality of roads in different situations, but there needs to be a road that gets you to your house. Well, in a way, that department should be providing a roadmap, so to speak, so that every single resident in Alnwick-Haldeman is accessing recreation culture and community building or community development opportunities, is sort of my thinking on it. And then the committee and the department, the committee's bringing forward the connections to the community where they're talking to people. And the department is saying, well, these are things that work elsewhere. These are things that are working now. And so they're bringing their expertise and making it work. And the community through this committee is able to bring forward what kinds of things they would like to see. And between the two of them, ensure that someone like Councillor Ainsworth, who's very interested in trails, or Deputy Mayor Stover can go to a community event, and Councillor Booth can go to his men's shed and get breakfast. Yeah, we've got to make sure he gets his breakfast somewhere. And, you know, I can go to the library. So it's not that we're all going to have the same role, but that we're making sure that overall that program is serving people of different ages, different geographic locations, different economics. Like, you know, it's one thing to say there's a yoga program, but if a person can't afford to pay the $15 or $20 for that program for that night, then they don't really have access, right? So anyway.
Anybody else got any thoughts? Go ahead, Jeff.
I think, and maybe some of the other people that got elected, this was probably the hottest topic. We were out campaigning and hitting the campaign trail, was the Parks and Rec and volunteering. So I think we really have benefited this time to put the proper process in place, that we recognize everything that Councillor Mary Catherine O'Neill has put through. I have looked at this, and I'm wondering if there is a simpler version of doing this, so I don't get lost in everything. And I did get that sense from other members of the community. They want to volunteer, and they want an avenue to volunteer, but they don't know where they can volunteer, and they don't know what volunteer positions are out there for it. So I mean, there's a lot of good things with this structure, but I think it needs to be really accepted and looked at. That would be my sense. And if I may, Mayor Lobo, ask Jennifer if she feels that there, if she would like to see some changes that maybe I'm not aware of.
Yeah, we can go ahead. Jennifer, you want to comment on that?
Sure, thank you, through you, Mayor Logal. Just wanted to point out the terms of reference for the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee. The mandate is to advise council and make recommendations on recreation and culture initiatives, enhancing the quality of life for Township of Alnwick Haldeman residents. The objectives that are laid out within the terms of reference are long-term planning. So assist in identifying and implementing community-wide needs and partnership opportunities for new program development and service delivery, including recommendations for broad recreational needs, trends, strategies, and plans, as well as community development. So review and advise council on matters relating to the development, programming, and utilization of rec facilities owned by the township, including but not limited to Vernonville Community Center, Centerton Community Center, Fenella Community Hall, and the Alnwick Civic Center. Develop opportunities for volunteerism through supporting projects and services related to recreation and culture. Encourage and support volunteer organizations and community resource members within the township who provide or could provide recreation, leisure, special events, arts and culture opportunities, including but not limited to organizations such as Men's Shed, Friends of committees, Grafton Green Thumb, revitalization committees, local sports organizations, etc. Requests of support from these organizations would be reported to council through the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee. To raise the profile of rec and culture through positive support and promotion in the community, and to support the township's strategic plan to further develop and support recreation and cultural services. So I did just want to highlight that. I will say, as far as, you know, my thoughts on how the committee has been going, it is still a relatively new committee, and we did definitely, you know, took a while to find our feet, kind of. I think it is working well and can work well with this current model. We did survey what's happening in Northumberland County, and this is in line with a lot of what other municipality and townships are doing within the county. And it does allow for volunteers to work with this group and allow, I like it because it allows definitely me to get community feedback and able to support those groups that are looking to put on events or would like to see something somewhere. I'm able to work with them to get that done. And I have heard from people in the community too that they're not necessarily looking to sit on a committee, maybe like a structured committee that, you know, meets monthly and does minutes and that kind of formalness, but are wanting to volunteer. So just for instances where that's happened, Canada was an example of that. So that was a community group that used to organize it in the past and reached out wanting to see it happen this year. So there was only myself and one member of the Rec and Culture Committee that kind of sat on those meetings and worked with volunteers, other volunteers throughout the township on that event. So there's just one example of that. The Vernonville, call them the Friends of Committee, for lack of a better term, is another group that has been able to kind of work with this new model and still kind of put on their events and things that they'd like to see at their community center at a really local level. And I think that's worked well. And I had one other thing I was going to say. Oh, that's what I wanted to mention. Sorry. I did reach out to our insurance company. Dave McGlennon got back to me, and he did confirm that volunteers are covered under our insurance. They're covered for liability. They don't need to be appointed by as a committee of council. It is a blanket coverage for volunteers, and he did give me all of that paperwork. So that's just something that recently came through. So that's good news on how to move forward to encourage volunteers in the community. And yeah.
Jennifer, that's probably the best news I've heard in quite a while.
Oh, that's good.
So thank you for continuing on and doing that, because I think it's going to kick off a little bit from where Deputy Mayor Stover took to, and that is talking about the impression, the feelings I got after talking to members of the community. A lot of people do want to volunteer. I believe that. I also believe that they want to, particularly in the hubs or community centers, they want to be close to those, and probably the ones that they're close to living with. And that really probably goes with some of our parks. Certainly the Roseneath, what do we call that, Roseneath, revitalization, Nuwatan Park, all of those. There are people that want to form, I think you used the word friends of a group or something like that, which probably makes some sense to me. And I'm just going to pick on Vernonville. They want to be friends of the Vernonville group. And there's probably friends of the Centerville group as well that want to do that. But they may not want to get into the cultural and recreational committee. They'd rather be a friend or be in the back. Is the impression I got. But they all want to be covered under the liability by the township. So could friends of the committee or friends of there be on that as well? Friends, as long as they're appointed by council as friends, that would work. I don't know what. So, what you want to say? Something?
Yeah, to you, your worship, this, when I was reading this there, it's a lot to digest, and Mary Catherine and John brought up some good points, very good points. And if anything stuck out in my mind about this committee, it's the you know, what will the recreation and culture committee look like? Those 8 items that are kind of stuck out in my mind, and each one of those items could be a meeting on their own. And it's hard to digest it all, is what I'm saying. And Joan said it I don't know if we could, you know, maybe like set up another meeting for just this here, where there's so much in this report that those 8 items stood out in my mind of what it's going to look like. So
Which eight items?
it's called "What Will the Recreation and Culture Committee Look Like?" in Jennifer's report.
There's actually 12. We're on to the next page, Councillor Ainsworth.
Yes, you're right. So I would hate to see us just kind of okay this today and not really find out where we're going to go with it.
Well, I don't think we're ready to go ahead. I would rather take the time and make sure we know what the plan is and get behind it. Because, you know, when I look at that, there's a lot of stuff there, and there's a lot of other things that I would like to see in this.
Yeah.
You know, there's and I haven't mentioned this before, but it's probably a good thing to bring it up right now. People have been asking about the across the road there where they have the bricks, and people have paid to have their name put on in that little park. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? I've had people come and ask me about that, and I recall that John Liptay, John Liptay, who's passed away now, handled that. And I spoke to his wife about that, and she just said, "Oh, John just loved looking after that." And he did an awful lot of things, and he pushed it. But because he would actually, what she told me, that, you know, somebody passed away, she would be saying, "Oh, there's an opportunity to do that little thing." And people, but there's other people that want to get their name on there too. And it was, I understand it was handled perhaps through the Horticultural Society. And I don't know if they want to do that anymore, but I think we should, in my opinion, ask staff if they should, would like to address that. Yeah, I know you're on the horticultural.
Yeah, to you, Mayor Lobo, it is the
it is run through the Horticultural Society, but it's a separate entity under the Horticultural Society, and they have their own bank account, so to speak, under the horticulture. Get the name of the it is, but it is run through the.
Something we should, well, excuse me, continue on, the horticulture wants to continue on. And that's fine, but people are asking me and I, you know, they'd like to put their name on something. And, you know, if the horticultural society wants to do it, fine. If they don't want it, then maybe something that the township would take over. And the other, you know, I'm jumping all over the place here, but you know, there's nothing there for fundraising for the arena, which I think is something that we need to get a committee going, because if we're going to do that, I don't think the province will offer us too much money unless we are shown some commitment from local residents that they're willing to help to support refurbishing or what has to be done to make it go.
To you, Mayor Local, that's another topic altogether, and I think that would be better service to an ad hoc committee, because there are local people that are for fundraising and moving on with this in some direction.
Yep.
And some would like to see another facility, a different type of facility. So I think that, in my opinion, that would be another ad hoc committee under this summer.
I agree. Go ahead, Mike.
Do we have like a calendar set up for this year? What we, you know, what we'd like to do with the Parks and Rec? You know, like what we do in the winter, what are we going to do in the spring? You know, summer, you know. Do we have like an annual schedule set up for that?
Jennifer should be able to answer that. He's the one that takes all the bookings.
Thanks through you, Mayor Local. Sorry, Councillor Ainsworth, your audio was cutting out a bit. Yeah, as far, I think you were asking about a schedule of events and programs. And that is something that we set at the beginning of the year. And last year that was done with the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee. So we sat down in that meeting and talked about what the year looked like, what kind of events they wanted to see, programs and that kind of thing. And that calendar was set, and then it was brought to council.
I would, sorry, what I said, you know, I'd like to, you know, if I could, you know, have some input on some new things that I think would be great for the municipality. It's, you know, again, if we, you know, if we could hold another meeting for that, or, you know, yeah, need to put that on the calendar, or at least talk about it.
Go ahead, Mayor Gaffney.
Through you, Mayor Logo, to Program Coordinator Steen and to the municipality in general, I think we are moving in the correct direction to start to look at this cohesively as opposed to separate little silos or entities. So I think there has been good movement made on this. I would like to see this expanded slightly to have more input and advice given on financial things. I really like the idea of the coordinated calendar, and that's an example of how this committee is actually better than what we had in the past. One area that I would like some real clarity on is the Friends and finances. That's a tricky ball of wax to do, and certainly was a concern when I was the co-chair at the Centerton Community Center. That was as clear as mud and not working particularly well. And I wonder when you do something like the chili cook-off and then people are throwing money into that fundraising jar, where's our tracking and our responsibility on that? And then big picture on finance, so that's sort of the details. The big picture on finance, how are we ensuring that we're getting the best value for the amount of money that as taxpayers we're putting towards that department, and making sure that, you know, we're not putting it all into one basket at the expense of other things. So I would like to see this go even further. And if I may be so bold as to perhaps throw this back to you, Program Coordinator Steen. I started with saying I really like the terms of reference, the formatting. Would it be possible for you to take back, based on some of our discussion, and come back with the terms of reference where there's the goals, the principles, and the mandate? So that's sort of what's our overall, what are we trying to achieve overall? What principles are going to help us make those decisions about achieving that goal? And then we get into the specifics of the mandates and things that you're talking about. What new activities might fall into there, or how would we gather that information to introduce new activities, or the friends groups and how they would work. I think all of those things come down in under the mandate.
Thank you, Mayor Cochran. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Mayor Lobo, through you to CAO Gilmore. Was there never any insurance, or was this a clarification that there was insurance, but we didn't know we had insurance for the volunteers?
Oh, boy. Through you there. We were with the understanding that volunteers were not covered. So we reached out on our own and found out that they are covered.
And they always had been.
From what I understand, yes.
And is this through our provider in Colburn?
Yes.
That makes it a good thing. So that there's that for it. I just had two quick things that I may go to Steen. Could you forward council the copy of the calendar for this year, just so we have an idea of what events went on, as well? If there were subcommittees, and I'm thinking Burnaville for one thing, or Centerton, if they were subcommittees of the Parks and Rec Committee, I guess you're calling it, either you call it the Friends of Centerton or the Friends of Burnaville. If they're subcommittees, can they work under that umbrella, so to speak, without having all the meetings and the agendas and that sort of thing?
Through you,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
through you, Mayor Logo. There was a lot of discussion about this topic at the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee level. And I think I outlined that in one of the documents about conversations they had about ambassadors or champions model. And that's kind of how the approach they were taking to it, so that there would be somebody that sat on the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee that would be the, ambassador or champion for each kind of community or community center or facility or whatever it may be. And that, they were well connected at the local level in their community, and, other people within the community could come to them with kind of ideas, and those would get filtered to the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee through them. The Friends of Committee isn't defined necessarily within the terms of reference for the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee, because it's not a formal committee of council or a formal subcommittee. So those, just like any other, they're a different entity, just like Grafton Green Thumbs or Men's Shed or any other kind of committee. So they weren't formalized by council when this terms of reference was put together. I do think that they can happen organically and are, and still work within this model.
Good, thank you. Mary Catherine, you got your hand up?
Yes, just to concur, I think that's an excellent way to look at them as being partners working alongside of this committee. Because I think if we tried to go the subcommittee route and then we're looking at Nawat and then Rosemead revitalization, and then we throw in new things like a Lakeport thing, that they could become quite unwieldy. So I think having them as friends or community partners or whatever term we decide we want to use is a better dynamic than subcommittees. That's just my thought.
Go ahead.
To Steve. You know, I kind of struggled with the champion title, but in hearing you, community champions might be the way to call this. And they want, if I'm hearing right, the volunteers out there, they want to be part of a group. So if they could be part of a champion group or whatever we call them, are you saying one member of that champion group would sit on the Park and Recs committee? Is that how you're thinking this would work?
Through you, Mayor Logo, the discussions at the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee were that, so the committee members who are appointed by council, maybe at the first meeting of that Rec and Culture Advisory Committee, we would discuss around the table what everybody's interests are and how they envision being a part of that committee and what they're bringing to it. And they may say, hey, I really am interested in the arena. I'd like to be the ambassador or champion or whatever, again, term we kind of settle on for that role. And so I think those discussions would happen at that committee level based on people's interests.
I guess what I like to scribble down stuff and then scratch it out and make some more scratches and this, that, and the other thing. But I really like the friends and it doesn't matter what it's called, but just those extra groups like the community centers, the parks, the boat launches, another one we haven't really mentioned yet. Rosemead revitalization, and those groups want to work together on their own, I think. But I think, a cultural and recreation committee can embrace those and those type of things without having to get into the daily stuff with those. And I'm just suggesting that, and I'm going to throw it out there. You can tear it up or do whatever you like. But I think the group should be about 8 or 9 at the most, because you can get too wieldy and you got uncontrol of it. But I think from a staff point, we probably need, and I'm just picking these one way or another, the arena manager, the activities coordinator. You definitely need the library rep on there. We need 2 or 3 from the general public, whether they represent parks or whatever, and then 2 council members. And I believe that will get it going. And I'd like our council, along with, our council coordinators for this, which I believe are Mike and Mary Catherine, to go with Jennifer and kind of work this thing and get it going. I don't think we should be taking up council's time all the time to do this. And that's why we have those council people appointed to this to lead this with staff and come up with a good plan. And I mentioned then, but then you need your ad hoc committees, which would be for hopefully Santa Claus parade, certainly a Canada Day, and some of the other things that Mike has mentioned, the car rally day or whatever, and have subcommittees that get together for 3 months and do that, and then council's there to support that committee, and the committee helps along too. But get away from some of the stuff Joan, you remember, where council ran the Santa Claus parade and council, and that wasn't, I don't think it was right. I think there's people much more talented, certainly than I am. I shouldn't say that for you, but you know, what I'm saying, we've got people that are much better at it than us and probably want to do it. So that's my 2 cents with it. Mike?
To you, your worship, just to add that, go back to what Mary Catherine said about, getting a calendar, from Jennifer to start with, and probably should do it on the timing there, because if we're going to, like say, if we're going down the farmer's market here at the ballpark, and say maybe one of Rosemead Fairgrounds or something, say, for argument's sake, we need to get them booked. So it's something that we need to sit down and start finding out what we want to do for a calendar, and then start reaching out to people to build that.
Mary Catherine?
I concur on the timeline with Councillor Ainsworth. So am I hearing that you're comfortable with myself, Councillor Ainsworth, and Program Coordinator Steen to go back and rework somewhat the current mandate, but we could go ahead and select people, because I know we have good quality people who put their name forward for the committee, and then we could announce both or bring back the mandate next one and the bylaw to confirm at our January meeting then for the committee. Does that make sense?
So we have a closed session on the 4th where you will be discussing committee members.
Okay,
And then the regular meeting on the 9th. If council makes a decision on the 4th, we could bring the bylaw to a point on January 19th.
That's your question?
sure. And we could bring the mandate then through the 3 of us for approval then?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay,
Go ahead, Councilor Ainsworth.
Just to clarify, Aaron, for you. So Jennifer and Mary Catherine and I will sit down between now and the meeting on the 19th.
I would say on June 4th or January 4th.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor, or pardon me, Deputy Mayor Stolberg.
I think it would be good to bring back to council what you think the setup of the committee is going to be like, or if it's going to be a board or a committee. I would like to see a few more committee volunteers in on that, because more the merrier, especially if there's going to be more events, and picking and we did have a good cross section of volunteers that came forward. So, you know, if they come on, they're all from the different parts of the community. I think it's a really good, exciting time, and look forward to seeing it.
Councilor Booth, there's not too many dollars and cents we're talking about yet, so you're not falling asleep. I'll confirm that.
No, here's the problem, sitting back and listening, I guess the only concern I would have is, I know Councilor Ainsworth was talking about the calendar. Obviously, Jen, you haven't had a chance to set the calendar for 2023, so you're just gonna, I guess, go by what you had last year, right? And then maybe yourself and Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Ainsworth, if there was some things like Mike said that he wanted to see, you could add that in, but then it would have to go before the committee, right? Just to make sure that that's all okay. So I'm guessing you're going, in other words, I'm saying, I'm guessing you're going with the 2022 schedule right now for next year.
Yeah, yes, through you, Mayor Logal, I'll provide the 2022 schedule with a note that, you know, we were definitely dealing with COVID still, right? So since I've been on, I started right before COVID in February of 2020. You know, definitely events and programs have been largely impacted by that, and what regulations were in place at those times. So I will just put that out there as well. And that'll look different for 2023.
And I like the mayor's comment about, I think it's good for the 3 of you to sit down and you could go through all of that instead of us here at council spending 2 hours going over what name we want to call a committee, or whether they're champions or this or that or whatever, to let you guys sort of do that and come back to us with your recommendations would be great.
Any further comments? Go ahead.
Just my final comment would be that Alan Coleman Township, like, and I know I'll speak for myself because I use this township a lot. You know, snowmobiling, ATVing, camping, kayaking, bicycling, walking. We have so much here to offer people for tourism. And this committee is going to hopefully bring that out, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And you know, it's you know, think outside the box, and really bring the township to life in the county and in the world because of social media.
Thank you, Mike. Do we, there's another couple of reports that were done by I guess the committee maybe a year ago or so, Jennifer, and there was about, I'm going to say 30 recommendations that were included in this report. Do you need any direction from council as to which ones we feel are important and which ones aren't? I don't get it. Was that the notes from the Parks and Recreation Committee?
There was the Parks Master Plan.
Oh, yes.
There's recommendations in that, you're referring to.
Probably. There was about, I think it was about 20 or 25 just on here. Anybody else been able to look at those? Was it before the term of reference or the?
Yeah, so, there was a Parks Master Plan in last March. The previous council went through recommendations.
Yes.
So if you want, we can set up, find that another meeting to go through the recommendations, if that's what the council would like to do. Because there are good recommendations
Yeah,
from that report.
it didn't look like it was all completed. So would council like to sit in on that? Okay. You're Catherine?
I, through you, Mayor Logal and CAO Gilmore was somewhat involved as well on that ad hoc committee that did this report. I think it will make sense to look at which items have not been addressed, but overall, this is one of the things I would like to see this committee that we're talking about giving input towards financial decisions, whether it can happen for this year's budget or whether this is something that we're aiming for in future budgets, but to receive this kind of report from the committee that's saying, well, here are some goals and direction. So I'm guessing program coordinator Steen that at this point, and because we're just forming the committee, we might not be able to do it as a committee this year, but in future years, that would be something that would make sense for our budget discussions.
Okay. I'm hoping I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think I should address your financial concerns, Councillor Leo. Historically, I believe the township has looked after what we're mandated to do. Like we have roads that we must meet the standards, we have libraries that must do this, and we have planning that has to be followed a certain way, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, I'm sure I missed some of the things, but when we budgeted, whatever's left over goes to recreation and culture. Historically, that's kind of what it is, and I think I've learned a little bit that people's lives are very important too, and we have a responsibility to look after them as well. So I wouldn't say that the purse is going to be opened up, but we should be considering all of that. Okay, so when would you like to bring that back? Can we do that? We're getting filled out of March or Well,
I would prefer that.
pardon me?
I would prefer that.
Yeah. Well, or maybe we have, it's allowed part of everybody or something like that. You could look at that report, because it doesn't have to be done. Really, I don't think.
I think there's two parts to it. I think that we can come on January 19th with some sort of mandate. And if we are able to have the first meeting, I think it would be ideal if the committee looks at this and sort of narrows it down. And then when council's discussing it at budget time, I'd also like to
Are
get a little
you talking about the,
the review of the Parks Master Plan.
okay,
And a huge shout out to our treasurer. Their last name, Lee James. Sorry, the way that the quarterly report came out and had it all grouped nicely together, all the things that fall under this budget, that made it much easier to follow. So thank you very much.
okay. Do we need anything more? We got, you have kind of an idea what council's asking?
Okay, so I think first thing is you need to pass a resolution to ask Councillor Ainsworth, Councillor O'Neill, and Coordinator Jen Steen to meet and to bring back recommendations to council.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried.
And then I'm assuming that we're going to deal with the committee appointment at our meeting on January 4th.
Yes,
Okay, so you don't need any motion for that because we'll be bringing that forward.
yes.
And then, as far as the parks and recreation master plan review, did you want to have a motion to direct that, parks, whatever the new committee is, that they review it and provide a recommendation back to council? Or do you want to wait until after the meeting on January the 19th? But we know,
I think you might as well make a motion now, so you guys know what you gotta do. And, ask you to have it back by, middle of February or something like that, or regular council, second regular council meeting in February. Is that enough time? Okay. I can move her to second for that then. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, seconded by Councilor O'Neill. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. That's clear. There's one. Okay. Next we have an addition, and that's the Heritage Committee for views and reference.
You can still have copies of that, do you? Do you want me to,
This one, then we'll take a 10-minute break.
do you want me to print,
You want to take a
Yeah.
10-minute break?
take it now and I can go and grab it?
Okay. I have a motion to recess for 15 minutes. Moved by Councilor O'Neill and seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion's carried.
And for those online, what time, Mayor Lobo, should they be back on?
2:30.
And I can't close that down and open it back up for recessing. It'll have to be live streamed the whole time, so maybe just shut your videos down in the meantime. I can mute it.
Yeah, so we just try.
Oh, no.
I just unmuted myself, or no, no, I'm muted.
training done in the first 60 days of coming into place.
Good point. And there could be different needs depending on the committee, I think, for safety reasons. I don't know that, but clearly something we should look at. Maybe some jobs, some committees may be more exposed to, I don't know what the plan is. Should be at least looked at. And probably the rest of them are once every 4 years.
I would suggest as a minimum once every 4 years, but you may want to do a refresher 2 years into the term. Same with council, you may want to do a refresher 2 years in, just because people get busy and.
Okay. Councilor O'Neill?
Perhaps rather than being too specific in the mandates, we reference, so for example, our volunteer training policy and to your point about the integrity commissioner, to reference back to our procedural bylaws would apply to all committees and boards, which that I believe is where it says that you have access to that, correct?
Okay. So we, any other further discussions on this particular one? So council is going to do recommendations to the staff that we pick up, and we move her to seconder for in that direction. Moved by Councilor O'Neill, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Any further discussions? All in favor? Motion carried. Okay, next we're going to talk a little bit about an economic development committee. And Pat has got us some terms of reference for from different locations or municipalities. You want to take us through that, Pat?
Yeah, so Councilman made mention that one of our previous meetings that you may be interested in planning an economic development committee. So I took some terms of reference from 2 different municipalities. One was Trent Lakes and the other one was Havelock. And I presented them to council for your review. And then you can either, we always do this in the municipal world, we steal from one another, or if there's changes that you want made, you can make it your own.
Comments from council?
I know that we're going to be looking at a review of the strategic plan, and I think a committee such as this fits into that review. So I'm not sure, you know, which is the best order to do things, whether we want to start our discussion about the review of the strategic plan and look at incorporating committees as we start to build the strategic plan, or whether we want to appoint a committee now, which presumably would have some role in informing a strategic plan, I guess. Is that, am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, I think just so we're clear, I really asked staff to just include a copy of the strategic plan, the current one, just so you have some reference to it. And in case you wanted to change it, I don't think we're going to plan to have a full-blown discussion on strategic plan today. So it's like everything else, we're going to get it in as soon as we possibly can, but it may not be in the first few days. So having said that, Mary Catherine?
My personal preference would be to be looking at how this would fit into the bigger plan rather than saying that we're going ahead with this today, but other councillors may have different view on that.
Anybody else have any comments? Seeing none. Okay, so you're gonna make a motion then, Mary Catherine?
That we just accept this for information at this point. Is that the motion? Yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay, seconder. Second by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any further discussions? All in favor that we defer? Motion's carried. Next we have, do we want to put a date? We want to bring that, come back to that again, so we don't forget it?
So if well, if you're going to talk about that strategic plan, if you, during that process, if you want to give us direction on when you want it to come back, then we would bring this back at the same time.
Good, thank you. Next we've got the Parks Master Plan Review. And look, this is where I got a little bit confused because I guess this is part of the recommendations that we signed for. Right?
That's correct.
Okay.
But we need to appoint Councillor Ainsworth and Councillor O'Neill to the Parks and Rec committee.
Okay.
We've asked them to do a review with Jen Steen, but we haven't actually appointed them. So if you make the recommendation, I'll bring the bylaw forward to our meeting on January 4th.
Okay. Okay, the motion will be that we approve Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Ainsworth to sit on our Recreation and Cultural Board. And that they, not only that, but that they have hold a meeting with our program design, or that's separate.
Yeah, you've already done that motion.
Okay.
Is-
Okay, so this is just a civil one.
This is. And then we'll bring back the bylaw at that one, the next one.
Okay. Chief CA.
I just want to talk about those dates because you said January 4th, so we're coming into Christmas holidays and we're not back on the 3rd. So I just want to make sure that Councillor Ainsworth and Councillor O'Neill are aware of that. So Jen Steen will be on holiday, Christmas break, so starting, after tomorrow and then back on the 3rd. So just putting it out there.
Thank you.
All in favor? Carry.
Oh,
Seconded.
no, we don't have a mover or seconder.
Okay, pardon me. We were second for that. Deputy Mayor Stover. Councilor Booth. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, next we're going to go at least look at the strategic plan. Anybody wants to make any comments, you can do that. And this was plan from approved on September 19th, 2019. And there's a council report from September 16th and another council report from 2021. Report number 8020. And then another one, an update on November 18th of 2021. So, do you have any comments?
The CEO probably does because he's going to update you.
Oh, don't forget your mic.
Thank you, Mayor. I will say that strategic plan does say it's an important document that we as staff rely on when we do our funding and stuff. So it is a document that I think should take some time to discuss. Probably that quarter to three that we get into this, but I'm glad everyone has it and look at it, understand it. We can make changes, but I do think it's another day that we really dive into everything. I will update council on a few items that with the assistance of Pat, if we went through it and we just did a quick update. On page, at the very back of the document on page 2 of 6. Do we have any updates, Pat, on the first one there?
Yeah.
In that block? You can do that block probably in that block.
So we're looking now under the park master plan and it starts with 1.1. So as of November the 1st, we held a special meeting, and then since then, that master plan was brought forward to a council meeting in March of 2022. And so there were some changes suggested, and I would suggest that when Councillor Ainsworth and Councillor O'Neill go through it, that those will be provided to you, and then you can make any changes that you desire, and then bring that forward to council. Under section 1.2, we still have a decision to be made, and that's regarding the arena and whether or not to renovate or build new. Decision 1.3 on the waterfront amenities. So we applied for funding in September of 2021. However, we were not successful. So council needs to decide on whether or not they want to put some money into the boat launches, whether or not they want to change the boat launches and make them so they're more for natural kayaks, canoes, that sort of thing, rather than motor boats. Take space for parking and trailers, and as you know, when we did our tour, some of them are pretty limited in the space that they have. And then 1.4, the programs at the facility. So Jen Steen has been reviewing that, and again, that's one of the discussions that Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Ainsworth will be having and bringing forward to council. That's all on that.
Okay. The next one is our new public works facility. Brian's online, so if you have any questions on that, but where it says 2.1, council as of November 1, 2021, council made the decision to construct a new facility. We are about 90% roughly complete. I do know they'll be moving in furniture possibly this week. New asphalt, another lift of asphalt in 2023. So Brian, I will ask, is 90% accurate?
Yeah, it might even be closer, like the 95. Like I said, the biggest thing, the CBO has an appointment out here tomorrow, I think at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, to do is hopefully his final inspection for occupancy. There's like the fire extinguishers. I was just talking to Tim, he just popped in. Hopefully the fire extinguisher dropped off here this after or tomorrow morning at the latest, and they've got to be installed all at the exit doors. The part of the building permit application, the fire, the water, the fire protection storage on site, that was installed today. The tanks, the plumber's actually there doing all the piping right now. So a lot of the small stuff is being done today and tomorrow inside the building. But the biggest thing in 2023 left really is the final lift of asphalt. And again, that it just got, the weather was really good when they did the base, but then the weather turned really quick and we didn't have, I could have had them paved. But again, there's certain parameters and temperature when you should have asphalt put down, and it didn't meet the criteria. So it kind of would have avoided some of the warranty. So I wanted to make sure that the final top coat was put down in good weather. So that's the biggest thing in 2023. And then again, having an open house then in, I'll bring something to council report when that would be. I would hope to maybe do it in the nicer weather, maybe early as May, something like that in 2023.
Thank you, Brian. Item 2.2 grants funding. We were unsuccessful when we did apply. 2.3 location options. We decided it was the best, obviously, just to do the addition on the existing location for financial reasons as well. And health and safety with the new construction, all the health and safety, deficiencies were met with the new addition. So we're covered that one. The next one, staffing level. Yeah.
Councilor Neil, like that's so
Sorry.
Oh, through you, Mayor Logan. Just back, did we get any idea why we weren't successful with the grants and funding applications so that we can be successful in the future?
So the grant that we applied for was the enabling accessibility, and it's a very stringent grant, and because it was such a small portion of the construction in order to make it accessible, it didn't qualify. There were other grant people who applied for grants had a better need than what we had for the public works building. So at the time, that was the only grant that we were able to apply for, and that's why.
So in general, just for my information, public works is a difficult thing to Like there's not very
No,
often
it-
grants or?
It just depends on when the provincial and federal government provide grants. And when they provided this one, the only one that I could find at the time was the accessibility, and it just deals with accessibility. So it would have only been a small portion of the total build anyways. Sometimes there's grants where it's unconditional, you can apply for anything. Other times it's specific. The one that we got for the well, it was a green energy grant, and it was only for replacement. It wasn't if you were going to do, like, if we were replacing one of the existing wells, it wasn't for like building a new pump house or anything like that. So sometimes those grants are very specific in what you can apply for, and you have to try to meet their criteria.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, the next, staffing levels, staffing review. So all job descriptions were completed in 2021. The succession plan was completed in 2022. It will be updated and then provided, because some positions have been changed since that has been done. So I'll bring it to council early in 2023. And recruitment, it's all part of succession planning as well. We were able to fill positions within. Priority, the next one, the fiscal sustainability. So this is asset management. This was completed prior to the deadline, June 2022. It's a live document. We have the software, up working. It's up to date. So Susan Smith, who is Brian's admin assistant, she'll be responsible for the asset management plan. Is there any more on that, Pat,
Just the building permit
Oh,
fee
yeah.
study. They're all still on the line. So that one, in the past, Daryl, if you want to speak to it, it's to do with your fees.
Yeah, we didn't have a building permit fee study done last year. It was done back in 2016, the last one. It is recommended. It's not mandated, but it is recommended to have them done every 5 years. We're still looking at it with our chapter members, our OBOA chapter members, on having kind of a joint one done. Last time we did that, it reduced the cost for us. So it is something I'm still looking into having done in 2023 to have completed.
Okay, thank you, Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl. The next one is investigate a new municipal building. Right now, we really haven't went forward, except I'll be coming to council during budget to ask for a capital approval for an audit of this current facility for accessibility. So I'll bring a report to council. If that goes through, I'll bring a report to council and explore some options. So whether we, this building needs to be accessible. So I'll have a rough idea of costing to renovate this facility versus, building a new one, basically. So that has to be a discussion early in 2023 and have some direction of where we're going. So
Thank you.
and then Pat will talk about the new well. He's put a lot of work into it.
Like you're gonna say, but the grants that you weekly provide us with.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay, the CAO on a weekly basis provides us with information of upcoming grants, so we take a look at it to see if there's something that we would qualify for, and then if we do, depending on what the grant is for, then we would circulate it to the appropriate department head, and we would work with them to apply for the grant.
Just out of curiosity. Historically, I think we could have done a better job of looking at those and applying for grants. But that has changed a lot in the last couple of 3 or 4 years. But my question is, how many grants have we got in the last year or 2 years much they work.
Through you, your mayor, I agree. I've been here since 2012 and we really have not been successful in a lot of grants until the last few years. I know Jen has been extremely successful. I don't even know how many numbers of grants. Brian was successful in the trails. Do you know, Jen, Brian, offhand, how many we've had?
We were successful on.
Yes.
Well, again, I know since I know we applied, the one we weren't first was the boat launches. I know we weren't successful on that one. Like you said, the trail, we were. The accessibility portion of the municipal, we weren't. Those are the three that jump out to me for public works and parks. Jen, you might want to, you were successful, Jen, on a couple, I think.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Local, through in Parks and Rec, that department, we were successful with the OTF grant, Ontario Trillium Foundation. The seniors grant, which is a provincial grant. There was a smaller Hydro One grant that we got to purchase pickleball equipment. So off the top of my head, 3 for sure. Plus the trail, like Brian mentioned, so 3. 4. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look for sure, but those are the ones off the top.
Thanks, Jen. So, you know, you're close to half a dozen grants successful in the last couple of years now. You know, respectfully, I'll say that the process of being aware of these grants has changed quite a bit than the past as well. So there's a really nice process in place that I get them and I pass them on to staff. So where in the previous years, you know, you had to go hunting for them almost. So it's the process is a lot better.
Yeah, as I recall, I could be wrong with this, but I believe the county hired someone specifically to look at all available grants, because it is becoming pretty complicated, as you say.
Yes, and completing the grants is very time consuming as well. I do know some neighboring municipalities, you know, not the county, but other municipalities that, you know, that's a main part of staff job is just to look for grants, fill them out and be successful. Like, so it takes a lot of work doing the grants, but you know, we've done a great job in the last couple of years.
Good. Thank you.
So the last then is the, looking at drilling a new well. So, the council's information, the RFP was issued on December the 13th. The RFP are due on January 23rd. So we're just going to get you the breakdown of the funding, but I've already put that to you, but we did receive a large grant for that.
Yeah.
The numbers that were needed. And as far as the location, that's part of the process. And also the decommissioning of the old well, that's part of the process. So once we hear back from our consultants are assisting us with this, and then we'll bring a report to council, whoever the successful bidder is, get approval for that. And then once we start that, then we can give you an outline of the dates when things are supposed to happen. So.
Good. Thank you.
Where, Public Works Millen
Yes.
had his hand up at one point.
Yeah. Go ahead. Brian.
Yes, through you, your worship. I just want to mention about the funding. A lot of time when that funding does, we get those announcements, and Troy and Pat can speak to this. It would be nice if staff and council come up with some a list of projects that might want to have a shovel ready kind of thing, because when a lot of these funding announcements do come out, there's a very short time turnaround to get this stuff back in and get approval by council. So that's one thing I say a lot of times is funding, but we don't have a lot of time to prepare and do work to fill out an application. Would staff agree with that, or?
That's a real good point, Brian. And again, from the county, I think they try and have a shelf full of different projects that half done or 3/4 done, so that when they actually do come out, they'll be able to pull out the one that best fits that program.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and it's good for staff to know what council's priorities are, because as Brian said, when these grants get announced, we come to council and we say, okay, there's these three options that may fit, and then you tell us which one you want. And then, as Brian said, like, we have a very short turnaround time, so if we already have everything ready, then when we get notification about the grant, we can just go ahead and apply for it and let us know and move forward, so.
Good. I have one question for you, Brian.
Yep.
I understand you're calling for a big storm this next couple of days. I hope you'll be able to tell us that the fellows don't have to back out and put on the plows, snow, when it's snowing and blowing, and you'll be able to just drive in and out this
Well,
weekend.
Yes, we're hoping that the storm, it's talking possibly most of it Friday afternoon in the evening, and I'm hoping that staff can be out probably Christmas Eve on Saturday morning and get it all cleaned up and have Christmas Day off. That's my hopes and hopes for the department anyway. So, but we'll make sure that people can get around, just like I said, staff did a great job the last storm. It was a rather treacherous and tricky with all the tree damage and wires down, but anyways, we did make through it.
I'm glad you brought that up. They did an excellent job. That was a terrible storm and caused havoc for, probably we were as hit as good as anybody else probably across the province. Or at least that's my understanding of it was too. So kudos to you and your team for getting that handled so quickly. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess we should have that we receive and file or go ahead.
Yeah, so council can receive the strategic plan if you want to hold the strategic planning session, if you want to review it back, if you want to for action on how you want to go.
Anybody else got any comments? Go ahead. William.
Yeah, I would like to see us sit down for the another meeting altogether this year. Just to hear our ideas and where we would like to go and add to or delete within that. Just reading it, just me personally, what I could add to it, so I'd like to have an opportunity.
I think you're 100% right. Anybody else have any more comments?
Just through you to CAO Gilmore. I understand that the direction is that the strategic plans will more closely align with the asset management plans moving forward than perhaps they have in the past. Is there a new process, or even if in the past, is there a process that each term of council sort of looks down? I especially take Brian, our Public Works Manager McMillan's point that having these things ready on the shelf is super important. So, you know, sort of what's the process to get from where we are now with a lot of things that are done or at least partially done to the new mandate?
And I will go with Councillor Ainsworth's idea. It's because it is such an important document. I think we need to take the time and to go over this strategic plan. And then hopefully that day we'll be able to answer all your questions and have a really good plan in place for all those fundings. So I will say in previous years, maybe that wasn't done to, you know, where it should be, and so it's exciting to hear council wants to take the time and go over this strategic plan. It just makes it easier for everybody. So I don't, it's not a document that you want to rush through. So getting together, talking about, you know, having that list, having that group of ideas that we need, so staff are prepared to act on it when we can.
And the other thing is CEO Gilmore was going to have a presentation on the asset management plan, so that counts as brought up to date on what's involved with that and what kind of dollars we're talking about. So.
Well, is it reasonable to expect both the session for the asset management plan as well as strategic plan? We could have one in March and then April. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's doable. And speaking with Pat mentioned the asset management, it would be nice to have the company that provided us the software to really go through it. We've had it once already, but I think it's important that council sees. I think you'd be really impressed with the software system that we have for asset management and see the numbers. You know, it's quite amazing. So I think that's a great value. Again, something I don't want to just sit and rush through. You need to see it, understand it, and, you know, so we're able to all go forward together.
So are you suggesting bring the contract in that provided that?
I would think so. I think that's probably the best, to have that company come in, do a presentation, show the software, because we're just learning the software as well. So I don't think we're at the stage where we can, you know, maybe, go through it. But go ahead, Pat. Okay, sorry. That's my suggestion, that we get them in, and they'll do it. They'll come down and do it.
Sure. Go ahead, Mayor Gavin.
Just in terms of timing, Mayor Logo, I would prefer that we sort of wrap up budget, and as soon as we're done budget, move into strategic plan rather than trying to get it started while the other one isn't completed yet.
That's a good point. I hope we're everybody's done by certainly the middle of March, but I hope we'll be harder.
We have it scheduled for March, first meeting in March.
First meeting in March, so there we go. We got it, you're way ahead of us. So, do we ever did move, I think, we didn't. You had a question?
Well, I just, for you, Mayor, if I could make a motion to move this strategic plan into a separate meeting.
Okay. Well, I think we should receive this first and then do that.
You can receive it and then you can ask the meeting help to.
Okay. So is March okay? Right?
Yeah, sooner the better, I think.
Yeah, okay. We'll do the asset management department, we'll do the strategic plan first, and then follow up with the asset management plan. Okay? Seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor Stover, further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, number 10. I know. Well, list of the, we talked about, I think it's an individual, a group, or having what we must do is accomplish in the first 100 days. So I Pat prepared that for us. And this is only 2,000 mayor suggestions, but I think it should be probably council's suggestions. But so I'm going to pass it out and we can look at it and your thoughts and comments. These are for the first 100 days, which I believe is the last week of February, before the end of February. And like any other goal or objective, you set them reasonable and hope you attain them, or you set them hard and you accomplish nothing, or you make it too easy and that accomplishes nothing too. I can lead you through this if you like, and we can make adjustments if necessary. And these are in no particular order. But so our first project that we wanted to do in 100 days is approve the 2023 budget. And it looks like we're going to be maybe a couple of days late on that. Anybody get the thoughts and comments on that?
I think the timeline works.
Okay. Update the procedural bylaw for council and. No, we reviewed it. Did we update it too?
I'm to bring it back to you for your January 19th meeting.
Okay. Everybody happy with that then? Development charge bylaw. We had a consultant come in, Bob, what's his name? Okay. Bob Clark, come in and he presented us with his recommendation for the development charge bylaw. And that was last week, I believe. So, and we have asked for a meeting to be held, public meeting to be held.
He needs to update the bylaw based on council's discussion. And then, yes, we have to have a public meeting. We have to provide 20 days notice prior to the meeting. And then there's an appeal period of 40 days.
So are we shooting for that for the end of February too? For at least for the public meeting?
Oh, for the public meeting.
Yeah, I don't think we can get the 20 days and plus the 40 days and everything else. So, but a public meeting, I think is achievable by the end of February. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor Lowell. So Pat, are we going to have our own council meeting on of the development charges? So we can, and actually, what do we think of it?
So are you meaning, is council going to review it prior to it going to a public meeting?
Yes.
If that's council's direction, then
I would think we should.
I think we should, yeah.
The next one is the council take a road tour and facility tour. And that was, you gotta, I should have stated that before. This was all planned or late November, early December, I guess it was. So that's why some of these things may have already been done or have been done already. But we've already taken the road tour and facility tour. And what was that? November 29th. Okay, thank you.
I'm a date.
Anyways, I thought it was a good tour, and I think we all learned a little bit about our facilities, and I had the opportunity to see some of the concerns of senior staff and where we thought we should be concentrating some of our efforts. Next one is the appointment of council members for two statutory boards and committees. And that include the Police Services Board, the Library Board, the Conservation, both Conservation Authority boards. And that's been done. Insurance for volunteers. Determine availability and how to proceed with this. So I guess we've got to confirm today that it's available. And how we proceed, I guess, well, that's not decided yet. The staff should be able to, provide something with us, and especially after Mary Catherine and Mike have a chance to look and see what committees they're working. But in general, I think that's will be done. Council meeting times to be reviewed and changed. Council has discussed this last week. And have we published that, what it's going to be in or not?
No, but as part of the review of the procedural bylaw, so that'll be coming back on the 19th.
Okay.
And then a schedule will be attached to my report. So.
Yeah, okay. And just there are some changes.
Yes, there are.
So that's you'll be able to, members of the residents as well as other people interested to be able to see that on the 19th. But there are changes. And hopefully we've met everybody's needs, or the best of our ability anyways. Schedule council meetings in Roseneath as per our procedural bylaw. I guess that'll come out on the 19th as well. Good. Approval, appoint council members as liaison members to departments. That was done, and we have Deputy Mayor Stover works with the planning department. Councilor Ainsworth works with building and bylaw department. Mary Catherine is working with the fire department. Councilor Booth is looking after public works. And I'm working with Nicole in the finance department. Review past committees of council to determine future needs and mandates. Not done, but we're discussing that, and you'll be seeing some changes in there too, I believe. Establish short-term ad hoc committees and establish mandates. And I have written down one of those ad hoc committees to be communications. And another one for fundraising and road safety. And that was it. So we can, if you want to see some more onto that, we haven't done any of that yet, but those are a couple, and the fundraising was for the arena more than. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, I just saw it now, to you, Mayor Lobo, the short-term rental ad hoc committee, I'm wondering if that should get organized sooner than later. I'm not sure. Is that on there?
Okay, we'll get to that in a second, Joe. The next one is review the asset management plan, and we discussed that. We're going to be able to, we have at least, no, we haven't. We'll be getting at not till April, like we discussed a few minutes ago. There's the review of the strategic plan. We had a quick one there this afternoon, and we will be having a special meeting in March to continue on with that. And the final one is the short-term rental ad hoc committee. And I see, and I think everybody in council will see that there's difference of opinion on the short-term rental, and there's a fair-sized group from both sides. And I really truly believe that we can bring those parties together. We can come up with something that will be satisfying both sides. Will meet the bylaws that we expect to be followed, and we can encourage and partake people to come to our community and enjoy themselves. Councilor Silver.
Yes, for you, Mayor, I'm just wondering, should we put out a notice to the public or the residents to see who would like to go on that committee? Or that ad hoc committee? Or are we ahead of ourselves?
I was thinking, and this is only my thoughts, I think we should probably have a public meeting and invite both of the people to come and express their views, so they all have good understanding of the other position. And then after that, maybe some of those people would be wanting to be part of that. But that certainly isn't the right thing. That's just one way. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So to you, well, I think we have a good understanding of both sides, and I would think if we formed an ad hoc committee to start the process, and when that report is done, then we can have a public meeting to let them know what we have down. Because I know there are some different parts of the puzzle that need to come into play as well. So I mean, if we put it out to the members of the public to apply, and I see you've got your two representatives from each side, I think to get a better cross people coming through, I would maybe want to up it to 4 on each side.
Okay. Go ahead. Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor Lobo. I actually think we're missing one group in here, and that's the long-term. It was there a second ago, the right term for it, but the people who operate these camps and facilities, and some of them have been doing short-term rentals since pre-Confederation. So obviously they know how to do it well, and we haven't included them yet in our discussion. But the other is, I think that we might be jumping slightly ahead of ourselves because we've already asked staff to come and bring us a report back on how to best review a bylaw. So I think we should wait and see if they are recommending an ad hoc committee as the best way to do it, or if they've got better ideas on how to do this.
Yeah, that's certainly up to you, Marilyn. The one piece of the pie that puzzle missing is the staff report, for sure, and how the bylaw is being,
Correct, we're getting that information too.
yeah. How that's working. Why?
When did we ask for a specific date for that report?
I thought it was first of the new year, right? January 17th, 19th. Reports coming to council from there.
That's a reasonable time. I think we all have to keep in mind, I think that's a great time. Actually. I do recall the last council had, this wasn't their problem until, didn't come to a head until, or not even a head. It wasn't even talked about until well into the spring. Isn't that correct? And they got an awful lot of pressure to get something done real quick. And at the same time, those people that are using those or trying to follow the bylaw probably want to rent out in a reasonable amount of time too, knowing that there will be or could be change to it. I think we have to keep that in mind too. But I'm happy with as you say, waiting until 17th and then deciding what's best. Will that report include the number of complaints they had in last year? And go ahead.
Yes, I was talking to Daryl, and he said that he would be able to provide all the complaints that you had. We can also, I think we can pull it from the website as well to get a summary of those complaints. Yes, you will have a number.
Okay. Go ahead. Oh, Councilor.
Through you, your worship. So I guess getting back to the deputy mayor's comment about should we be advertising for people, or that there was a motion made by Councilor Ainsworth last meeting that we form an ad hoc committee for this issue. So we know we're going to do it. Are we going to wait for this report that's going to come from Daryl, which I believe is just going to give us numbers on that to say how many complaints, how many were solved, how many are still ongoing? There could be some recommendations from Daryl maybe that he thinks, but I still think we should get going on forming the committee, or at least putting it out there to ask people if they want to be on the committee, because it sounds like we're going to wait till this report, then we're going to start, which means we're going to be like a month behind. And if we're looking at getting this in by April, May-ish before things happen, we're going to be behind the 8 ball.
One of the other issues is going through the process, because it is a new bylaw and we haven't had to deal with it before. There are some challenges that we've thrown up against, so those issues could be brought forward as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, your Karen.
Sorry, are we just receiving a bylaw report, or are we getting some feedback as well from the planner on the original bylaw and altering the bylaw?
So it's my understanding that you wanted a report from staff, so that would include the senior planner. Also, Yolanda has been working with it, so we would get the report from the deputy clerk, and so the group of us would sit down, come up with what our issues have been when we're trying to implement this down, and then bring that report.
I think that's perfect. Go ahead, Mary Gaffney.
I don't want to just lay your work on you, but a little bit of the kinds of issues you were dealing with pre-bylaw as well, and whether you see that, you know, which ones have been improved and which new things have been created.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, to your worship, I want to agree with Greg. I mean, we can't wait. Like Lily was gonna, it might put us back 2 months. So, you know, if we can, you know, if I need to make a motion, I will, but can we not just get some feelers out there from their group, let them pick 2 of their spokesperson and us pick a couple of the public and then council?
I had, you know, I suggested 2 representatives from each side. I guess they'll probably have to tell us which side they're leading, or if that's necessary or not. Then 2 members of council and 1 member of staff. The non-voting.
I was just gonna say, even with the staff member. So we have Gerald that does the bylaw enforcement, we have Jen that created the bylaw and deals with the planning aspect, we have Yolanda that deals with the issues that we've had when we've sent out the applications to the ones that she had to track down through the internet. And so I think you might want to have maybe more than 1 staff person, or maybe depending on what issue is being dealt with, what particular staff person participates.
Yeah, I tend to, I agree with you 100%. And perhaps it would be better for them to come in to the meeting when they're dealing with what their particular expertise. Does that make more sense? And the only reason I say that is because they shouldn't vote. I don't believe.
No, there would be a non-voting member. Yep.
Yeah. So, as long as it doesn't get too big and influencing, but the committee for first of all on the board, council on that committee, and then the other group. And I wonder, should we nominate committee or council members today, or select them, or is that too soon? Go ahead.
So I would agree with you, Mayor, let's get that election done for here. And I would also agree, let's get some information out to the public to get whether it's 2, 3, or 4 of the residents. And I mean, we have to be able to let that group pick their own people. It wouldn't be like anybody else coming to council with a delegation and then us telling them who they can have as a spokesperson. So I think they have to pick their own name.
I agree on the timeline because of the season, but at the same point, we're here, as CAO Gilmore has pointed out, staff does have a break over the Christmas season. We are not able to move ahead on this until January anyway, just from that piece. So, I mean, we are trying to balance the 2 timelines, but I think we need to be very cognizant that realistically, this is January, no matter which way we put it. Even if we say we're doing something today, it's not implemented till January anyway, for that reason.
However, we could post that there were going to be opportunities for people to sit on the board or whatever, so that they know it's coming. And that can be done, you know, putting it on the website and then
the details.
And then not doing nothing until the middle of January, but at least they have 2 weeks to get, as much as get together and do the work as spokespersons.
I was just gonna say, I agree with what you're saying, Mayor, is that it's nothing for us to put the ad out. It's not like we're actively doing anything with it or staff, you get it out. I agree with what Councilor Ainsworth is saying, is that obviously the 2 sides that we know of, there's probably more people that would want to put their name forward, but the 2 sides that we know of, at least they know and they can start to get together and decide who's going to speak for them. I mean, I like Deputy Mayor's opinion about maybe you have 4 on each one or whatever, because maybe the group that was here, maybe they're going to pick 1 or 2, and there could be other people in the town. I don't think we're just going to keep it to these two groups, right?
With that, because, you want to be, put it out so everybody has a chance to sit on and not have it even keeled out one balance, keep a balance is what I would think would be the best thing to do.
I mean, you could even have somebody that has nothing to do with short-term rentals one way or another, and they're more unbiased to say that they would like to sit on that, which would be good to have that too, right? To have the average taxpayer type person in there, but I agree with what you're saying there. Let's get it out. And at least it's out there. And even if we don't do anything until mid-January or even at the end of January, at least it's out there. We've got it going instead of, like you said, Mike, that we're going to be way behind by the time we read Daryl's report and do everything else. We're going to be the end of January. Then we put it out for another couple of weeks. We're into March, you know.
And at least we have the names that we, you know, if we don't look at it again to the end of January, we have the parties. Or the ad hoc.
So, can I have a motion to instruct staff to post for, on the website, opportunities to sit on the SBER committee? And what committee? Yeah. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Councillor or Deputy Mayor Stover. Further discussion? All in favor? Carried. So this is the list that I put out. I think it should be coming from council rather than the mayor's suggestions. If you don't mind. And does anybody want to add anything or do anything with this? Go ahead.
The one thing, and I have this, Madam Clerk, that this for you, Mayor Vogel, is to schedule mandatory training for all board members and committee members.
Okay.
I think that's important, and as well, that,
Is it, okay.
and as in that training, what all, you know, look towards a direction on what you think should be included in that training.
We'd have to go through a list, but there's like accessibility. We need to train all board members on accessibility, violence in the workplace. The integrity commission that's available to all board members, just process how things work and how they are recommending board to council. Insurance, yeah.
I'm seeing insurance, but the breakdown on insurance, what is covered and what is not covered.
And just so we know, within 100 days, what are you expecting to report back in 100 days of what has to be done? Or we start training or
Let's schedule.
scheduling?
Yes, because 100 days is the end of January. And the boards will have been in place by then. And I think this is something that needs to be fairly minute. And I stress and mandatory that all board members have to do this.
Any other Councillor O'Neill?
You touched on a communications committee, but if we're putting up about this short-term rentals, could we also put coming soon? I guess first we should agree that a communications, but that was definitely the number one issue I was hearing at the door is how do I know what's going on? Where's the information? Why isn't it in the newspaper? That website's a nightmare. So anyway, the communications was definitely coming up frequently. So if we could have an ad hoc committee on that, and I think it's sufficient to say at this point, just coming soon would be my suggestion, that we're just also giving a heads up and then we can look at the details in the spring.
Perhaps we have to, after we get done February, we'll put a 200-day one on. I think actually what we've tried to accomplish and what we've accomplished thus far, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of the way that put this thing together and very proud of the staff, the way they're reacting to it and getting at it as best they can. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's extra work with all of us who are both enthusiastic and not necessarily knowing things. So we're asking a lot of background stuff too. So it's getting it from two directions from us. So thank you.
Yes, yours. I just a couple of things that I think that add to it or even get some comment on. Talked about part of that was where we putting those together for the roads. You know, we talked about a number of culverts that need to get cleaned out, a number of roads that needed to get fixed up. And we talked about maybe putting together a schedule so residents would know when that's going to happen. And I don't see that on the list. I thought that was kind of an important one. Because I think we all had that challenge in the last couple of months.
Just so I understand, so you're looking at not necessarily this year, but in the next 2 years or 5 years?
Well, I think Pat, you're going to come up with something here in the next couple of meetings. But it would be nice to see that on our big list.
Oh, we come up with the list, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's something that residents deal with every day.
Yeah.
And especially with, you know, spring is going to be here in the next couple of months and the culverts need to be looked at. And so on. So we talked about, and I think Brian, you might have some kind of list together already.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Logan. Sorry, I couldn't quite hear Councilor Ainsworth real clear there. If you could maybe repeat that, Mike?
Yeah, Brian, we were just, we talked about putting a schedule together about road repairs, culverts, and like a schedule of when they were going to be done. And we could post that so residents knew when their road or culverts were going to be cleaned out, roads fixed. And I thought you might have said you had something like that on the go already.
Go ahead, Mike, or Brian.
Yep, through you, Mayor Logan. Yes, Councilor Ainsworth. The plan was, again, I would like to bring to the 2023 budget is also doing another roads needs study. Our last one, Troy, I believe, 2016, I believe it was. So, you know, usually they get done, we try to get them done every 5 years. And then from that, and as well with our OSRM reports, which is your bridge and structures review that are mandated to be done every 2 years, which there's a lot of the old box culvert bridges that are in need of repair as well. They're gonna repair some dollar figures to replace, and that's another thing attached to funding that we should kind of get ready if we get one or two out of our OSRM reports that are our consultants recommending replacing or rehabbing. We should try to get some work in advance that when some funding is available, which they usually rate very high on getting funding for it, because they're, like I said, it can cause a long detour if they collapse. There's a major disruption to the community. So those funding applications usually rate high when you have bridges. Then Councilor Ainsworth, coming up with a 5 and 10 year plan from our road network and having it's a working document. Like, can be some stuff that has changed, but moving forward, yes, that's what I'd like to see happen. I wouldn't have it, ready for the spring of this year, but definitely moving through the summer to fall and proceeding into 2024. I would love to have something that in place. And maintenance is a little different. There is people's that might have issues with culverts that are, entrance culverts and stuff like that for, that need work. That's more to the, a summer initiative that we can actually plan for doing regular maintenance. So come out with a better maintenance plan as well. But all the stuff can be worked on Councilor Ainsworth and be up back to the residents that have concerns as well.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. One other thing too is that our strategic plan, the biggest employer around here is farm. Farming, agriculture. So we talked about doing some education and public awareness for that. And, you know, and I don't see that on the list, but I thought it would be a nice one to be on there, that we could start something. I reached out to the farming community or agriculture community to just want to be a part of what, of them, and, you know, just be a springboard for them. But it would be nice if council, that we could put something together for that. And that, like I say, and that being our biggest industry pretty much in our municipality. So I think, and most of them will agree, it's like, not, if we're ever gonna have a big accident, like, and we have had a couple, but it's planned because of this, we just need some more education to the public. Yeah, so I'd like to see that on our list too, if possible.
To you, Mayor Lobo. Mr. McMillan, is it possible that you would be able to provide a road schedule for the year of 2023?
Go ahead, Brian. You got that, Brian?
My apologies, sorry, I'm sorry, I was dealing with a staff member there, I didn't hear a word there, I totally stepped out for a sec, sorry about that.
Yeah, Mr. McMillan, I just wanted to know, I know how daunting it would be to come up with a 5-year road schedule, but do you have a schedule in place for 2023 that could be posted?
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I do, like, in the next stuff, like, I'm working on budget right now, I'll be sitting down with the finance, Nicole, the treasurer, and if council approves what I'm recommending in 2023, the budget, then it can be posted, if that's what you're looking for direction on.
Yes, I just think that people will be able to, they'd be pretty happy if they could see what roads are going to be done, and I'm sure you have roads that are in the forefront here that are going to be on that schedule anyway, regardless of budget.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned and Dad that I believe maybe we didn't get it get it on the website early last year, but I believe last year I think we tried to do that as well. Once the budget is passed, to put our capital projects on the website so that people, and what other means that Jennifer does as well with social media, to put our capital projects, even some of our roads that are getting gravel put on it, or anything that would be of interest to the residents to know what's going on. We'll make sure we do that again.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to push this on pretty quickly because we're trying to get within 3 hours, and we're getting a little bit of that 3 hours now, but I do have a couple of things. We should receive the 100-day list and with amendments, and become part of the minutes. So can I have a mover in a second to receive and not file, but receive and review, I guess. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Silver. All in favor? The other thing I would like to do is I would like to appoint a couple of council members to look after the SBRs. STR, short term, yeah. Mike, you're volunteer? I don't want to. Good, thank you. Another volunteer? Or Deputy Mayor Silver? Good. There we go. So they volunteered. Do I have a motion to put some in the pairs? Moved by Councillor O'Neill and seconded by Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. Going to move along to 11. And this is just a notice to the public that on Wednesday, January 4th, 2023, the Council of the Township of Alma-Calderwood will be holding a closed session in accordance with Section 239(2)(b) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, for the purpose of reviewing staff performance appraisals and reviewing of applications for the township committees. The CAO clerk and the deputy clerk remaining in attendance. Move in second for that. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth and seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. Approval of confirming bylaw number 140, 2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special council session held on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. Be it resolved that bylaw number 140, 2022, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special session of council held on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022, be read and deemed passed this 20th day of December, 2022. I've moved a second for that. Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. And I would like a motion to, I'll read the motion. You can have a first and seconder. But be resolved, the special session of council of Tuesday, December 20th, 2022 be adjourned at 3:47. And one comment. I forgot. Merry Christmas to you and all of your families. And I look forward to working with you all in the year.
Yeah, Christmas.
Pardon me? Oh. All right. Moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Further discussion? All in favor? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, members of staff, and looking forward to see you all in the new year. Merry Christmas.